Girl, have you never read a fantasy plot? That is like literally every single fantasy story ever. The cringy stuff I've ever read, and I've read monster romances. Sweetie, has anyone ever told you that you might be the problem here? How dare you put that on this poor author? She's just trying her best. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Doing a fun little sit down video today. I saw this video pop up recently on my recommended page. I just thought it was so funny. I personally watched Larry's video first and she just had me giggling the whole time. And I'm feeling in a really good place mental health wise. So I was like, why don't I just go ahead, hurt my own feelings and read some 1-star reviews of my favorite books. What book do I even want to start with? There's so much choice. Okay, I'm going to start with one of my surprise 5-star faves of the year, The Fake Out by Stephanie Archer. This is a spicy hockey romance that I honestly went into with very low expectations. But whenever I read it, I just absolutely fell in love with our main character and the relationship. Overall, a pretty solid rating, 4.71 stars, 77,000 ratings in total. Okay, first person DNF'd at 53%. It was cute and everything, but it was so boring and dragging. And this fake dating, it was literally the furthest thing from fake dating in my opinion. Also, I didn't feel like they were loving each other. I felt like they were just lusting for each other. I mentioned this being a pretty spicy book. There is a bit of lust going on. I won't disagree with you there. Okay, at first it was cute and I was giggling and all, but bro, in these 53%, there was nothing happening between them. No conflict, no fights, no anything. Even when there were little fights that could lead to misunderstandings. Don't get me wrong, I literally hate misunderstandings and miscommunication tropes. They would be fine the next minute. I'm left feeling like I don't know what you want. You hate miscommunication, but there's not enough drama or miscommunication going on for you? Sweetie, has anyone ever told you that you might be the problem here? I mean, you both know how to communicate and all. Good for you. I want something to happen. I'm bored, bro. I don't think I can handle cuteness in 82 chapters and an epilogue. I think you and I are looking for drastically different things in a book. This review is a mega long, but it starts off with a bang. Stephanie Archer, I'm begging you to please stop writing. Why I hate this book. And then we go into different sections of why they hated it. First off, they hated the characters, they hated the nicknames, they hated the length, they hated the smut. Overall, if you want really, really, really bad smut scenes and no connection, read this book. Well, consider me someone who wants really, really, really bad smut scenes and no connection. Whoever told me it was an enemies to lovers book lied. I was waiting for an actual story. This was just straight up porn with a sad excuse for a plot. Okay, whoever told you that this was enemies to lovers was a liar. This is not enemies to lovers. The guy was literally pining for the girl on the first page, which is why they entered into a fake dating situation. DNF at 42%. What happened to hello? How are you? My name is. They're obsessed with each other from the first page and I have no idea why. I'm curious if this person read the first book because this is book 2 in a series. I heavily recommended this book to my friend. Book 1 in the Vancouver Storm series called Behind the Net, I did not like. I told my friend that you should still read book 1 because it sets up book 2 so well and lays a lot of the groundwork for Rory and Hazel's relationship. I'm wondering if maybe they didn't read the first book. But also Rory and Hazel went to high school together, so they've known each other for years. DNF at 22%. I personally do not try to DNF before I'm like 100 pages through. Ideally, I'm coming up to 50%. A lot of books at 22% are still kind of laying the groundwork and the plot is only just getting started. The FMC was annoying AF and half of the things that happened made no sense. She's the team physio, but doesn't actually accompany the team to away games. It's actually a valid point that could be a plot hole. She tells the MMC to do whatever he wants to sell this relationship, but then doesn't know how / want to act in love at all, even though it was her idea in the first place. She has prejudices against everyone and everything like hockey players are supposed to sing. I would say that her prejudices against hockey players are discussed. Maybe further in the book, but it does have to do with her ex-boyfriend. Some of the cringy stuff I've ever read, and I've read monster romances. Thank you for pointing that out to us. Maybe because the fake dating immediately starts with them admitting they both have a thing for each other, so there's nowhere to grow. The writing makes it hard to connect with the characters individually and as a couple. I really kept trying to push through but had a DNF at 60%. This one I have to laugh at because I do not enjoy most pet names that come about, and The first book in this series, Behind the Net, I absolutely hated the pet name that the female main character was given. I should have learned from book 1 that this author loves giving shitty nicknames to the female character. This one was Fire Breather. That was weird. I will give my hat to you there. I did not enjoy that. I'm seeing a lot of negativity around all the smut. This book is supposed to be smutty. If you do not like smut or spice, do not read this book. That is a pretty heavily discussed plot point in a lot of Stephanie Archer's books. So if that's not your thing, she's probably not the author for you. Okay, I want to know what the people have to say about one of my top book boyfriends. And I'm talking about Mr. Kai Azar from Powerless. This book also has a pretty high average rating at 4.22 with over 383,000 ratings. An editor, my kingdom for a fucking editor. No kingdom's more harmed in the making of this review. I am what some sexist pigs would call a basic bitch. If you give me a tall, dark-haired, sarcastic, morally gray man in a romantasy that combines some of my favorite books and tropes, whilst keeping some sense of originality, I'll be content. This book had all of that. Well, the tall, dark-haired MMC in a romantasy part, excluding the originality and the morally gray part, but I'll get to that. Oh my gosh, this review is so long. Oh my god, honey, if you don't like a book that much, don't waste that much time writing a novel about it. Oh lordy, I can't even read all that. This review is giving, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Disappointing, more than disappointing. The hype for this book infuriates me because if this is the standard is in hell. It was basically just an amalgamation of popular tropes, and the main character was a carbon copy of every other generic YA lead to exist, lacking any flaws whatsoever. Where's the originality, the world building, the character development? A good romance requires more than a few tropes and loads of cringy banter. Further, the writing was ridiculously poor and under-edited. Someone help me out here. I literally write all day for a living. I don't recall editing mistakes. What in the Hunger Games, Divergent, Serpent in the Wings of Night, Throne of Glass, Young Elites, Shatter Me, Band of Mashup is this? Disclaimer, I know nothing of the author and don't keep up with book talk books, so this review is unbiased in every possible way. Even in moments where I may diss the book, I have absolutely nothing against the author and I'm open to reading her further releases. That being said, I have lost faith in humanity. Bruh. Okay, what I want to know so bad, if someone hates a book, why do they write such long reviews? That's crazy to me. If I hate a book this badly, I don't give it a second thought, and I certainly won't write such a detailed review on it. DNF'd at 50%. Y'all be for real. This had the cringiest, most cliche monologue I've ever read, and 99.999% of this book is just mentions of this boy's chuckles and smirks. Can he die, please? Girl, we have beef. The best part of this book is Kai Azar's chuckles and smirks. Straight and to the point, I like it. DNFing at 77%, what the actual fuck? If you got 77% of the way through a book, you might as well just finish it. She mentioned the word dagger 101 times. Then you would hate Reckless, because I'm pretty sure there she at least mentions it 102 times. This is a shamelessly watered down copy of The Red Queen. A lot of 1-star reviews I'm seeing are mentioning The Red Queen. That is not something that I have personally read. I know that Red Queen is one of the OG fantasy books that's been around for a long time. I'm pretty sure Lauren Roberts does reference that The Red Queen was an inspiration for her on this, but I do see a lot of people upset about that comparison. I want to look up a book that I did not read this year. This was a 5-star for me last year and it totally got me obsessed with the show. Let's look up A Discovery of Witches. Holy shit, this has so many reviews. 505,000, average rating of 4.02. This is actually 0 stars, but it wouldn't be listed if I put 0, so just so you know, 0. Okay, we get it. I thought this was going to be a really entertaining read, but I'm giving up. The main character makes no sense whatsoever. We're told that she isn't able to do magic, and then she does magic? Huh? Girl, have you never read a fantasy plot? That is like literally every single fantasy story ever. And then we have the vampire sneaking in her window and watching her sleep, fascinated by her sleeping. Where have I read this before? Let's see. Can anyone think of where we might have read this? Anyone? I am picking up what you're putting down there. What I've learned thus far is that the author is very proud of her knowledge of Oxford and the library there. I got this book before it's listed as part of a trilogy. Beware, series alert. I might have found the energy to finish this one off, but I can't imagine 3 books like this one. Nope, not gonna do it. 50 pages, that's it. Thank you and good night. One thing about this story that I am very sad to say is the series does go downhill from here. Absolutely loved the first book. Didn't even mind all the library references, though I will give it to you, pretty heavy-handed on the library references. Every book after this just gets more boring and longer. So I would say if you aren't totally obsessed with the first book, do not finish the series. You will be disappointed, but I would, however, recommend the show. It is very good. Oy vey, what a snooze fest. This book is 500 pages of pure exposition. Nothing happens. The climax of this book is just the 2 main characters handing out Halloween candy before getting ready to take a trip. Really, that's the climax of the novel. I absolutely love how out of context they take the climax of the novel, because if you read that and what's actually happening in the story, it's hilarious how out of context this is. It's going so slow. I feel like I'm dying a little inside with every page I read. I'm getting old with this book in my hands, not my cuppa. Giving up. I will say this book is not very fast-paced. The first book is very much about Diana finding out about her powers and how to use them, and mentions of conflict and problems, but not actual conflict and problems. One of the most terrible books I've ever read. Only the satisfaction of giving it 1 star made me finish it. I have won the battle. This is what I'm telling you guys, people of Goodreads are so funny. I love the Twilight references with this one. This is a Twilight-esque romance that deludes itself into thinking it's a great work of historical fantasy literature. The magical book and magical creatures element is a mere flimsy front to Diana and Matthew's dull as cardboard yet still somehow a whirlwind romance. Because reading about taking yoga classes together, what they cook for one another, and the rare wines they share with one another really adds to the characterization and the plot. I read 200 pages and then stopped because I could see where the series was going, and I feel no need to continue on with that train. To each your own, ma'am. To each your own. I tried really hard to convince myself that this was an alright book, even after the vampire yoga scene. Why are you guys hitting on the yoga scene so hard? Although that was probably the moment when I realized this was a losing battle. I wanted so hard for this not to be completely ridiculous and irritating. I was sadly disappointed. I DNF'd this bad boy and I never do that. It's against my moral code. The guilt and shame I feel are your fault, Deborah Harkness. I'll never forgive you. How dare you put that on this poor author? She's just trying her best. Don't know if this will ever end. What a snooze fest. Oh well, 50 pages to go, but I doubt I pick up the next one in the series. A whole lot of nothing has happened in the 529 pages. Boring magic, lame romance, and a protagonist that is pretty useless. Might be more for the adult Twilight-loving crowd than for me. On the upside, at least, I'm not a quitter and will finish this boring and pretentious piece of tripe. Can you tell I'm not liking it much? Big thing I'm seeing with the negative reviews is that it's boring. Again, I would say watch the show, because what is boring about the books is everything takes place within mostly Diana's perspective, but in the show you get to see a whole bunch of characters' perspectives and the story feels much more well-rounded. So if you thought this book was a little bit slow, again, I would say watch the show. Okay, now I want to do a book that I know is going to have the freaking funniest negative reviews, because people just love to hate a popular book. So what is the most popular book on Book Talk BookTube right now? ACOTAR. I actually only gave ACOTAR 4 stars, the actual first book, but the series for me is a 5-star series because I feel like all the books after book 1 got better. Over 3 million ratings, 4.18 average star rating. Let's freaking go. My favorite line of this book sums up my reading experience. My bowels turned watery. I couldn't help it. Oh God. To be fair, I don't even remember that line, but that's great. To be completely honest, I had higher expectations for this book, especially because I really love the Throne of Glass series and there's so much hype surrounding the series. But I think I should have also considered that I'm not the biggest fan of Beauty and the Beast. I did not find the plot of this book interesting. For most of the book, I felt bored. I wasn't the biggest fan of the characters. I really did not like Feyre, still don't. Her lack of survival instincts astonished me. valid. There were so many times when I was simply asking myself, how the hell is she so dumb? Agreed. Tamlin was just an asshole. I don't understand how people who have just read this first book can love his character. He's just awful. Rhysand is the only character that I can say I like all the time in this series. I didn't like this book. The next two books are better, and I feel like I'm in the minority with not enjoying this book. I do recommend the next books in the series, just not this one. I am not in too much disagreement with this review. I will say though, if you want to read this series, you absolutely have to read the first book. Otherwise, the rest of the series is not going to make sense. But I don't feel like this is the strongest book in the series. Now I understand why all the other books are so long. Nothing really happened in this one. It could honestly be a standalone with the way it ended. If I wasn't curious as to why this series is so popular, I props wouldn't continue. I realize I'm probably in the minority on this one, so don't berate me too much, but this just isn't for me. I thought Throne of Glass was more compelling and had a more interesting plot, but maybe continuing on will change my mind. We'll see. Also, we should not be berating people for having differing opinions. I've definitely read hyped books that I did not understand the hype on. No need to berate someone for having a differing opinion. I'm sorry, what? This is Bella Swan Wattpad. I'm genuinely doubting my sanity right now. How is this book so hyped up? A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas is the most overdone and cringy worthy books I've ever read. The characters are flat. The plot is unrealistic. Girl, it's a fucking fantasy novel. This is not going to be realistic. And the writing is amateurish. If you're looking for a good laugh, then this book is definitely for you. But if you're looking for a good story, then you should steer clear of this one. I'm wondering where you got Bella Swan Wattpad. Feyre gives me a lot of things, but she doesn't give me Bella Swan. Hating on this book is therapy, bro. I'm telling you, people just love to hate what's popular. Okay, last book. I'm really going to get my feelings hurt because this was one of my most recent 5 stars. I have such an emotional attachment to this book. It's Happy Place by Emily Henry. Over 1 million ratings and a 3.99 star rating. I'm shocked that isn't higher. Oh, here we go. When I die, I want Emily Henry to lower me into my grave so she can let me down one last time. What? Yo, that is fucking ruthless. I considered giving this 3 out of 5 at one point, but the more I think about it, the more it makes me rage. I'll have to split this into 2 parts because I have an issue with almost everything and anything. Let's talk about the names for a sec, because where does she find these names? His name is literally Wyndham. Wyn fucking Ham. It sounded so yeehaw, but it ended up being an English name. This should have been a sign for me to stop reading it. I should have known at this point that he'd be a loser. And his sister's name was Michael. For half of the book, I thought he was talking about his brother. Parth sounds like the Bengali word for fart, so I couldn't take him seriously at all. Yo, why are you so tripped up on the names? Miss Henry, can you explain how Shadi is going to pay those loans off? Our female main character has student loans because she's a doctor. I'm so glad we're so worried for her. I was so irritated with this book. I basically hate Reddit. So much eye rolling, so much miscommunication. These characters are so idiotic with their decisions and ideas of love/romance. The friend group is also stupid, and the way everyone treats each other is terrible. Ugh, definitely the worst rom-com I've read and the worst Emily Henry book so far. Don't we just love a hate read? I feel like it's good for the soul sometimes. That was me recently with Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Ah ha 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 ha. I fucking hated this book. I love Emily Henry. Book Lovers is one of my all-time favorites, and I felt so seen by that book that I cried for half the book even though it wasn't sad. I loved Beach Read too. People We Meet on Vacation was fine. But overall, I'm an Emily Henry fangirly, so color me shocked that I fucking hated Happy Place. Let me start by saying that I will never, ever be here for a character that only exists to love a man, and that is Harriet's sole purpose on planet Earth, to love Wyn. Wyn and Harriet are 2 of the most annoying characters I've ever met. Miscommunication/lack of communication is the name of the game with them. La la la, my least favorite trope. The review goes on, but I too hate miscommunication. What's going on in their story is lack of communication rather than miscommunication. Every time a person gives this book 5 stars, a feminist loses their way. Oh my god, we're going to end on this absolutely brutal review. I am not the target audience for this book. That's fine. I've said this about other books that I've read. Sometimes you simply are not the target audience, and that's okay. If you have what I call internalized insecurity, read this book. I would say Happy Place is aimed primarily at millennials who don't have their life figured out, cannot have a rational, mature conversation to save their lives, and run away from all their problems because life. I do think Emily Henry got a ghostwriter for Beach Read because that's the only good book I've read that's written by her, and that book is the only reason I subject myself to half-assed novels like it. Holy shit. Tell me how you really feel. Again, I don't think we need to be attacking others for liking this book. I don't think we need to be talking about how this is aimed at millennials and then start listing off really rude reasons. If you don't like a book, that is simply okay. As you mentioned at the start, you're not the target audience. You don't need to go and insult the actual target audience. Oh, so that's where we're gonna leave it, friends. There were some good ones in here. Some absolutely brutal ones where people maybe should take a chill pill, but sometimes it's just fun to sit down and chat about books. So I hope you enjoyed. Super fun reading vlog will be coming to you next week, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our future videos. I want to say thanks so much for being here and watching. It really does mean the world to me, and this is where I will love you and leave you. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye guys.